Well, it's official now. Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever. First pick of the draft. Nike has went ahead and put $20 million on the table. You've got jerseys flying off the shelf. Everything in America is moving behind Caitlin Clark. Here's my question. Is Red Arback coming back? The legendary Red Arback of the Boston Celtics. Because this one reminds me of Larry Bird. And what I noticed here, is Red Arback coming back? And will Caitlin Clark meet all the expectations as they keep rising higher and higher? Because I mentioned the Red Arback, and let me tell you why. When Red Arback chose Larry Bird, he immediately went down to Golden State and fleeced them. I say fleeced them. That's what he did to Franklin Muley. The owner of the Golden State Warriors, he fleeced them out of Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale, and he sent us down Joe Barry Carroll. Now, why am I making this comparison? Caitlin Clark, great player. Great player, but man, oh man, the deck is getting stacked up against her so high. Can she even live up to the expectations? And I know everybody is going to go the opposite way. They won't agree with Money Mike, but this is how it actually goes. I've seen the movie before, and I just hope I'm not watching the movie again. And because this is the WNBA, and they have existing players that have played in the WNBA for a long time. And let me tell you what I mean on this one, folks. I'm going to take you back a ways. The Sacramento Kings drafted Jimmer Fredette. Jimmer Fredette reminds me a lot of Caitlin Clark. And he was projected, came in at the 7th pick, and he was projected to do everything Caitlin Clark is expected to do in the WNBA. However, in that situation, the Kings also made a draft, and they picked up another player, okay? And immediately, as they picked up the other player, it was Isaiah Thomas. And I went in there for the opening interview with the Sacramento Kings. We're in the locker room, and I look at the public relations director for the Sacramento Kings, and I said, do you know who you just drafted at the last pick of the draft? Okay, that's Isaiah Thomas. He told me, I've never heard of him, never even seen him play. I said, well, I have. That's Friends of Hoop coming out of Seattle. And man, oh man, let me tell you something, folks. You look at Caitlin Clark and you look at Jimmer Fredette, okay? And let me tell you something. When the Kings had their opening practice, it was extremely obvious who was the better player by far. That was Isaiah Thomas. So what am I really trying to tell you here is you got Caitlin Clark walking into a battleship, and, you know, if the mountain's just getting too high, and that's getting a little scary for me. And because when you get a player like Caitlin Clark that comes in and does what she does, you got to understand that everything's got to be right for her. Okay, Caitlin Clark is a great player with a great mind. But when you get players like Caitlin Clark, they have to play with 4 other great minds. And, folks, let me tell you something. The Indiana Fever are not a very good basketball team. Okay, so unless there's some acquisitions coming down the pike immediately, okay, and they got a guard in there already averaging 27 points, so there must be a trade because they're going to need some additions in Indiana because she cannot carry that load by herself. And what do I mean? Great players make great plays. There's no doubt about it. Great players make great plays, okay? I get that point of it. But at the same time, you got to look at it collectively and say, man, oh man, is that really going to happen? Because if it doesn't happen the way it's supposed to, man, you're going to have a lot of unhappy people. And that usually how it works itself out. But great player, and I'm asking, is Red Arback coming back? Because when he drafted Larry Bird out of French Lick, he had to make some acquisitions. Okay, he had to get Danny Ainge in there, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and Dennis Johnson. Okay, Red Arback had to surround Larry Bird with high IQ players. Indiana Fever are going to have to surround her with high IQ players, unless you're planning on bringing the entire Iowa basketball team to the Indiana Fever. And let's not discount the Iowa coach, because that Iowa team ain't going nowhere. I mean, that's an easy replacement for Caitlin Clark. I guarantee you Iowa will be right back there again, because the Iowa coach knows what the offense is and knows how to get it done. Now, for Caitlin Clark, man, you guys can go ahead and pay her $50 million and pay everybody else $1 million. You know what that's going to do? Everybody's going to lock it in and lock up, okay? Because the salary disparity is just too much. It's too much, and it's got to be adjusted. It's got to be corrected, and I'm just saying, man, oh man, oh man. So the reason I'm saying this, by the time I see all the public appearances she's making, by the time I see all the commercials she's going to do, my question is, when is Caitlin Clark going to have an opportunity to just play basketball again? I think those days are long over, and now you're dealing with a whole different animal, okay? Because when you become the highest paid, that means you get the highest criticism, okay? Now, there won't be any criticism in the Midwest. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Midwest basketball, folks, I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of great Midwest players that play the game really good. I mean, not just averagely good, but they play the game really, really good, okay? However, they have to play with a group of players that are like-minded. And my question today, is the Indiana Fever team like-minded like Caitlin Clark? Because if that team isn't on the same IQ, that's going to be a struggle point, okay? Then it's going to come down to her, where they're going to have to depend on her to win games. And, folks, that's going to be tough to do in the WNBA from the immediate start. So this process might take 3 or 4 years. I think everybody's going to have to be super patient. But when you get on the national stage and they're putting you on a pedestal like they're doing Caitlin Clark, which me as a reporter, I think it's a little unfair. I've never seen in a press conference a reporter tell a player, I love you. Okay, that means people are getting ahead of themselves. You still got to tip the ball up, folks. And one thing Money Mike always tell you, this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast, powered to you by Fanatics, is you have to play basketball eventually. And I'm going to tell you, there's a whole lot of point guards that are ready, and it's a different game. Okay, the offense is different, and I think Indiana Fever are probably understanding this as well. It's just whether or not they can make the acquisitions and trades, okay, to make this happen for Caitlin Clark. Because the other Iowa players that she played with were fantastic players. Okay, fantastic basketball players. High IQ, they got it. And does all the players on the Indiana Fever, they're going to adjust their style and play the way Caitlin Clark wants them to play? That'll be a TBD to be determined, okay? But she's great for the game. It's great for the hype of the game. But, man, oh, man, you got a lot of players in the WNBA, man. It's going to take her a minute. And the expectation, Nike, $20 million, that's a high expectation, folks. Obviously, it wasn't for the game of basketball. It's the popularity of merchandise, commercials, and shoe sales. That's the game. But when that player doesn't produce on the court, that all flattens itself out, and the reputation doesn't amount to the same. So I brought it to you. Is Red Arback coming back? Because Red Arback went over and got Larry Bird and got him up there out of Indiana State, slicked him on into Boston. I remember that. He fleeced Franklin Muley, the former owner of the Golden State Warriors. Man, he got Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale out of us. Went over there and got DJ out of Seattle. Man, you understand that. And Danny Ainge was a two-way player. He played for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he was a fighter, so they got him. That was the starting five. Okay, if you look at that, you got Bird, McHale, Parrish. You got Dennis Johnson and Danny Ainge. The Indiana Fever need to mirror that, or else this one's going to be a tough start. And because you can't take a high IQ player and have everybody else adjust, okay? And that Indiana Fever was a losing team. And I've never seen one player take a team from the bottom to the top. That's usually a post player. So you heard it from me. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Caitlin Clark is on her way. We'll see you soon.